Underway here. My name is Chad Ryan. This mic is really loud, but I'd like to thank everyone for being here.
That's just because it's the first time you've ever actually used the microphone?
The mic's not this loud on the other side. Councilor Carney, Councilor Driscoll, Councilor Rudd, Councilor Thompson, Councilor Green. Go ahead, the floor is yours, Kelly.
For those that don't know me, my name is Kelly Thompson. I work with the firm of Bergman Associates, but since approximately 1992, I have been associated with the Syracuse Interconnect expansion area, and particularly its communication system. There's just a little bit of history that I want to share with you all that I'm hoping that will help us all see the future of this communication system as it should be configured. You know, smart technologies and smart mobility is the buzzword of the world. Cache is data. So data communicated through a fiber optic network that the city is so fortunate to have, it has to also be considered what the future will be for this network. A little bit of history for those who may not be as aware of it. The central system that's been in place since 1992 in the city of Syracuse is associated with a traffic management system. And at that time, it was only designed to have support of traffic control and traffic surveillance. 1992 is a long time for a system to be in place, and this system was originally designed so that what it would do is support all of the future expansions to the control system, up to as many as the over 435 traffic signals that currently are in the city of Syracuse. What has happened over the years is this system has faltered a little bit. It has been utilized very well. It has also had some of the fiber capacity that was built into that system diverted to other uses, and so more recently, in the development of the phase that we're working with the engineering group on as well, is a decision needs to be made about the replacement of the central trunk. What you see in this picture actually is what was designed in 1996 and installed. This is the center trunk that goes from the traffic control center down through a series of multiplexers or connection points and goes all the way down to Adams Street. That central trunk was sized only for traffic control and traffic surveillance. A few years later, and more recently completed, the system had an expansion and a redundancy built into it. So not only do we now have an opportunity to maintain control if the fiber is cut at some point, traffic that might have data going in one direction no longer would be cut off if a break were to occur, you know, somewhere down that line. It'll be maintained at all times. And you've experienced that in more recent years where you've had a break in the system and you never knew that you lost communication because the fiber had to be repaired physically later, but that redundancy served the city well. Because the fiber network not only now supports some, certainly all the traffic control, but also supports some city departments, it's vital that this communication network stays working, because otherwise you lose control to areas like DPW and some of the other remote departments. So what we've since discovered, though, because that fiber has been used for other purposes other than traffic control, beyond what it was designed to accomplish, the central trunk now does not have sufficient capacity to support future phases. So part of what needs to happen here is a replacement of the trunk so that we can meet all the needs of the traffic control and traffic surveillance to continue to support the city agencies that currently use the fiber. But there's also an opportunity here. You know, as I said, data is the new cache. It is what is important to all of us. The cell phone you had in 1992 when we designed this system was a box. It was a huge, you know, box that we carried around. Today, data is what we use for everything, every decision we make in life. The smart city identifies that we need to offer communication, connectivity, and data capabilities. So what the discussion today that I was hoping might be furthered along, because a lot of these discussions are already been in place, is to decide or how and where, what decisions might need to be made about the future of the fiber optic network and any potential capacity expansions, not just to support projects that are currently funded, but other needs. IT has needs, and there might be other agencies within the city, but also is this an opportunity, as many other municipalities and cities around the country are doing, developing your communication network so it's useful not only to the city but for other users, and having them participate in the management and the cost and the maintenance of that communication system.
So that's why I had Kelly explain it. So obviously we got a lot of different departments here: engineering, fire. I see Lonnie here. You know, we got the whole shebang. So, could you speak to the current ownership or regulation of it?
The system is maintained by the Department of Public Works, and any maintenance and operation, as I understand, comes through that at this time, through DPW.
And Dave Proax got some interest in this. How does it work for you?
I'm sorry, but who do you work for? What's your job?
Okay. I work for the firm of Bergman Associates. We are contracted presently with the city of Syracuse in order to design the expansion area. But since 1992, I was the original consultant manager working for New York State DOT at that time that constructed this system, and I've been involved in all the expansions of the communication system since that time.
Okay.
So I'm Dave Perwick from IT. IT has had maybe 1 or 2 pairs of fiber in the phase 1 trunk since going way back, probably 10 or 12 years. About 4 years ago, I replaced 1 or 2 of the pair we were using with some new fiber because ours was deteriorated and it wasn't performing well. So maybe that was a precursor to what you're seeing overall, but our use is relatively small. It's 1 or 2 pairs of fiber, and we haven't expanded our footprint in there because I knew they were running up against constraints. Quite frankly, it was hard to get done because they were reticent to let go of any capacity. I think they possibly anticipated this, so I've got a very small amount of footprint in there, and I don't see that growing unless something were to occur. I'm going to go somewhere else for it. And when it comes to, I think Christy wants to speak about when we talk about smart city, and that's a whole nother conversation, separate and distinct from this session.
So why can't you get more of a footprint in there? Could you explain that part of it?
Because it's very limited. It was built, as you heard her talk, it was spec'd and designed in 1992. It was built for one purpose, to run traffic, okay? Just to run the traffic control, the signals. And I don't even know if you anticipated the use of video back then, but it was a single purpose. So we use a little bit of it. There's just not any more to give. I think that's what she's leading up to, why they need the trunk possibly replaced. I think it's because it's 24 or 25 years old. That's probably what you're running up against.
So that's signaling law from whatever, 1890. How much room does that give us? As much as we need?
Well, I think that's a legal question, certainly not one I'm able to answer.
Okay.
That agreement just says that National Grid, or its predecessor at that time, it was even before it was National Mohawk or Niagara Mohawk, it just said that they were required to maintain space in their conveyance system for communication for the city of Syracuse. At that time, I'm sure it was envisioned to be fire communication, because we probably never thought about it. The first traffic signal light wasn't until the early 1900s. So I doubt that I can answer the question, and maybe it's a negotiation, but right now you do reside in a great deal of the National Grid duct space because of that agreement. So they accept that they provide you space in their underground network. There's only a part of the system that's in the network, the rest of National Grid's network. Part of it is carried on National Grid pole lines, and the rest of it is carried in underground conduit owned by the city of Syracuse.
Go ahead. I'm trying to get my head around this.
Christy Elliott, Director of Administration. So I just did want to comment. I don't believe we've had a chance to meet. It's a pleasure to meet you. So you're aware we are doing a pretty large smart city initiative, so I would love an opportunity for us to connect on that after this conversation. I would say that many of the things that you're talking about, we are working with the New York Power Authority in a design phase to think through. So happy to talk more about that with you offline. I'm not sure the forum, I guess I'm not sure what I could provide here to help answer some of these questions, but these conversations are happening.
So the trunk that we're doing next year or whatnot, what are we including in that? Are we giving Dave more line? Does he need more line? Is DPW good?
Well, I
are
think
we getting as much as we can?
So I think the thing to say, Councilor, is that we're in a design period right now. What we're trying to do is figure out, so as we make the smart city investment, the the fiber component is critical. And so there's no part of us that doesn't recognize that. It will be a piece of what we do. Trying to decide how much money we're going to spend on that, how much money that we want the city to spend on it. What does public-private partnerships look like in that space? How do we team with perhaps some of the telecoms or other things? Do we want to be focusing more on fiber? Are we looking more at 5G? All of those things are under consideration, and we're in a design phase. So I don't have concrete answers. I think the most important thing I want to say is that we're trying to take this slowly. We're trying to take it step by step. A lot of this technology is new. So being able to make long-term decisions is critical. So we need to do the research up front. We need to make sure that we know the cost benefit of each dollar we think about spending there. We need to make sure that we're working with private industry to understand what they can bring to it and what mutual benefit we get. You mentioned the importance of data. Certainly that is a currency at this point in time. If we're going to be having access to this kind of data, how can we make sure that we can put that to its best use, both for municipal use, but also, in partnership with the universities. So all of those things are things that we're exploring and looking at right now. But rest assured that when we do make these investments, and I think the purpose of the design phase that we're going through right now is that when we do have to make these types of investments in an additional infrastructure that allows us to do things like work with the connected streetlight system, that we will do it in the smartest, most efficient way possible, and that we will leverage it to, if we have an opportunity, and Dave certainly can talk more about what we're thinking about from the fiber build out, but that as we're starting to make those investments, we're doing it in a way that is incredibly conscious of the $38 million investment that we made in the streetlights.
So is there going to be like a comprehensive plan done, and if so, is it going to be done before next year's trunk or whenever that trunk is going in?
Yep, so we're in a design phase right now. That design phase, and there are several people in the room who are involved in this, so correct me if I'm wrong, anyone. I believe the design phase will be done by the end of this year. We'll start installation on the streetlight network in the coming year. And as we go through that process, hopefully by the fall, we'll have the technology in our actual streetlights, which will be one component of it. But then, of course, we'll be doing the fiber build out, sort of in tandem with that. All of that design work is happening right now, and there will be both a near-term plan for the next year ahead as we make this investment, but also a 3-year plan after that. What does it look like? What is our vision for this in the future from a municipal standpoint? And what are we building toward year over year?
So I guess that's kind of what I was trying to get to. Was if we have a plan and when we access this, obviously it costs money. What do you know what we have to pay for when we go through to access this?
You mean when we go through the conduit space of National Grid?
Is it a one-time access fee?
We pay for the actual installation costs and the contractors, and anytime you're in National Grid space, they have 2 guys there and 2 guys there. So you pay for those guys, but beyond the install, there's no ongoing fee. That's, once again, we gave them the right to put their poles and lines up in the public right-of-way. In exchange, we get access to their conduit system or their pole system above ground. So we pay for the install, we pay for their guys during that, and then we're done.
Okay.
And it just relative to IT's needs in this network, top of my head, I think DPW has to make a decision whether they need this. Okay, if they're going to build this and put something in the street, I'll jump on board. Me being involved is an incremental cost. They're already laying the conduit, they're already laying the fiber. I'll buy some more fiber and say throw it in there. It's not going to move the meter, it's going to be this much extra. So I think DPW has to determine what they need here. that as it stands now, we think we're going to be able to build our fiber out for smart cities, maybe some other ways. But if there's low-hanging fruit, if they're going to dig up the street, we want to be involved in that. But I don't know that we would be a driver in and of itself for that project as it stands right now on 1031.
And then what happens what's the committee's or county's role in our smart city thing?
I mean, we'll certainly work in partnership with the county. We've had conversations about planning and where we are at, but I don't see a more formal role than that at this point in time.
We share a lot of IT resources back and forth. So as we build out a fiber network and it benefits us, we can certainly make that available to the county where they need it as well.
Are we building on a fiber network, or am I getting the impression we may go a different route?
No, I mean, the current plan and what we've budgeted for in this year is to continue expansion of the fiber ring that Dave and IT have started. I think what we have to figure out from there is how much and where else are we going to do that, and is fiber the way, right? So there are several different ways for us to transmit data from place to place, and so are we going to make a big investment in fiber? Is that through public-private partnership? What neighborhoods are we targeting? Would we prefer to focus on municipal Wi-Fi? Would we prefer to focus on 4G and then 5G expansion? So those things are all things that we're considering. The end goal being the same, which is digital equity in the city and high capacity, low cost internet access for both economic development and educational reasons. So that's definitely the plan and the vision. I think to say, I just can't predict how quickly and when and where we'll get to that. We're trying to make smart investments and smart decisions on that front. But certainly, yes, that's the plan. You know, building a full fiber network for the entire city would be incredibly involved and would take us years and millions of dollars. So it doesn't happen, overnight.
So when do you think the council could get a brief on the smart cities?
Happy to do it whenever you guys would like. We're, like I said, we're in the design phase, so happy to have a sit down and talk about where we are from a design standpoint. We actually just did a presentation to our department heads this morning. We could happy to do the same one with you guys. By the end of this year, we'll have more concrete thoughts on, what we would call use cases. So what sensors are we going to be getting? What are they going to do in terms of helping to support more efficient municipal operations at DPW, for example? So if you'd like to do something near term, if you'd like to do something longer, we could do both, of course.
All right, I'll touch base with the councilors. Do councilors have questions?
No, I'd be interested in what you just suggested.
Sure.
Questions?
A brief on the smart city.
Do you have questions?
No, I think the best thing is to understand what you're already doing and then helping DPW to decide whether we should continue moving in any sort of direction that we need to with the fiber network that we already have. And I think that collaboration would be super.
Sure. Happy to chat with you whenever you would like.
So those trunks, there are trunks.
Yes.
City's trunks.
Yes.
And anybody can get in them.
No,
Who gets in them?
we do.
Just the city.
Nobody has access to them.
Well, National Grid technically does because it's in their conduit system. So, but when you go down there, things are typically labeled. This is somebody's, this is National Grid's, this is somebody else. You only touch the ones you're supposed to be touching. But that is National Grid system. Nobody goes in there without them being on the ground, down in the hole on top. So they're always there. And they have a 3 or 4 inch conduit dedicated to us. Now, have they gone in and added more fiber because they ran out in some of their conduit? We haven't been down there in 24 years. I don't know, maybe not.
We haven't been down there in 24.
This is not a type of thing you go out and you inspect on a regular basis, especially when it's somebody else's conduit system. So we can't vouch for the condition of it right now, other than it's reaching its capacity. It's reaching end of life.
Yeah.
Well, what do you have that you use on a daily basis from 1992? Nothing, right? So, there you go.
Maybe a comb.
Hair gel.
Hair gel. All right. Well, that's helpful to me. I appreciate you showing up today. I appreciate everybody in the room for being here. You got anything to say, John?
Well, the slides that Kelly showed are all related to traffic signals. That's what we've received funding for, is for traffic signals. The communication aspect is not fundable. State looks at that as a betterment. I mean, the city, we have a design report for the next phase. I mean, communication did come up on that, and as we explained to Kelly, is we have to talk about that internally in the city as to how we're going to finance any of the improvements or any breaks in the existing trunk. The current funding we have will not address going back to fix problems in the trunk. The city has to find those funds. So internally, we're well aware of what we have to do with our network. And again, IT, if they want to jump onto it for other needs or smart city, that's an internal discussion that we need to have as to how the two networks are going to mesh together. But right now, we have funding for traffic signals, and we should concentrate on traffic signals. That's what we have funding for right now.
Okay, appreciate it. Thanks, Tim. Fire, Lonnie, anybody want anything to say? Good. Sir, would you like to say anything?
I'm all set, thanks.
Perfect.
I do want to just observe.
Okay, all right.
I think there would be some benefit for the city for fire. There are new ways of communication. How we work on the 911 side is changing rapidly. We're moving from analog-based systems to largely internet IP-based systems, and I think there's things that the city could benefit from, advanced fire station alerting and other things, definitely.
Okay. Do you guys use fiber optic?
We use, coming into our building is all fiber.
Okay. And what's your network like?
Well, we use a combination of fiber optic and microwave. We use the county's fiber optic network. We also use some commercial fiber optic. And then we, for redundancy, we use a lot of microwave. We have our microwave sonic ring around the county MPL task ring. So we have a lot of redundancy built in our system so that we don't have failure. But we rely on the county's network. Luckily, there's because we're up on the hill with OCC, there's a lot of capacity.
Okay, so you don't see there being next year when they redo their trunk or whatever any.
I think from a 911 perspective, I think it would benefit the city. I mean, there are things like we've looked at locution, which is an advanced fire station alerting that can provide a lot more functionality for Syracuse Fire. So our clients, being the Syracuse Fire Department or Syracuse Police Department, may have some interest for mobile data, being able to access our databases or access computer-aided dispatch in their vehicles without having to rely on commercial broadband service. So there are opportunities for your departments to, as far as the service that we provide them, to benefit from that. From the county perspective, county IT, I know they wanted to be here, but the commissioner was able to attend, and he said he would catch up. So I know there's a lot of county infrastructure downtown, and I don't know how that would mesh. I'm really not a part of that.
Okay.
I just want to comment on one other thing. I mean, I think irrespective of the trunk per se, I think the bigger thing is that whatever we do from a smart city standpoint, we'll make sure that those conversations are happening and the communications will be enhanced within the next year, just by virtue of the path that we're going down. I think the question is the specifics of how we get there. I don't know what those are going to be yet, but I think it will lead to enhanced communication. It will lead to better connectivity, better flow of data between all of our different systems. It will have incredible impacts for public safety, incredible impacts for just municipal service delivery. And how we get there may or may not be related to some of the fiber upgrades with the trunk. If we do decide to go down that fiber expansion and build out route, we will certainly do it in coordination and in being conscious of the investments that do need to be made. But we might also decide that there's a more cost-efficient, cost-effective way for us to do this through a different, meaner mechanism. But no matter what, the outcome will be, ability, for our systems to better talk to one another, for us to better communicate, and we'll make sure that, we're coordinating with all of the folks in this room when that happens.
So I should have had a smart city committee meeting, is that what you're saying?
I'd be happy to have more smart city conversations with you, Counselor.
Okay, perfect. All right. Does anybody have anything they'd like to add? Thanks for showing up, everybody.
Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.